Okay, welcome back. Today we'll be entering Chapter 8, dealing with polynomials, starting with polynomials. Through this chapter, you're going to be dealing with a lot of different types of skills and concepts that deal generally with um, a special type of polynomial. But today we're going to be talking about all different types of polynomials. Now, polynomials, okay, the word poly means many, okay? And the word nomial actually means terms. So we're going to be talking about many terms. Um, I'll be getting into that in examples in a little while, but let's start with a couple of notes. So, first, polynomials are categorized by both the number of terms and their degree. Now, we should know what terms are, and degree we've talked about as well. Okay? Terms are parts of an expression or equation that's separated by an addition or subtraction sign. So simply, if we had, let's say, the term 2x, right? That's one term, right? And then if I had, let's say, plus 5, right? I have 2x as one term, and I have 5 as another term, okay? Let's say we had another term as in, 7y squared, right? 7y squared. So each of these are their own individual term, and they always carry the sign that's in front of them. And it doesn't matter what degree, the degree is the exponent, but just know that how many terms do we have here? We have 1, we have 2, and we have 3. Okay? So good. So we're going to be classifying in the number of terms an expression has. And then we're going to be talking about the degree at which they are classified. So the degree is the sum of the exponents of the variables that appear in it. These are categorized by the highest degree. So if I had, let's say I had 2y minus 4, right? Well, I'm going to go with the exponent, the highest exponent that this expression has. Well, I know the y is raised to the first power. All right, and I don't have a variable over here, so that's actually raised to the 0 power. So this y is raised to the first power, and that degree, the degree of 1, there's going to be a name for that. Let's say I had 4x squared, right? That's another term. Okay, now the degree is 2, right? So the degree is 2, and then that's going to have a name. Okay, so let's get into a couple examples, and then we're going to fill out a chart. So each of when we classify, each of these are going to have two names. Okay, two names. There's going to be the number of terms, and then there's going to be the degree. So if we talk about the number of terms, let's just underline how many terms we have. 1, 2, right? So that has 2 terms. Okay, how many terms does this have? 1, 2, 3, right? So that's 3 terms, and then with the number of terms, we're going to have specific names that we call them. Okay, now let's look at the degree for those two. So if we go back and get my highlighter, let's see if this works. So what is the highest degree? So if x squared, now do I have a variable raised to the exponent? No. So the highest exponent I see is 2. So that's a degree of 2. Degree of 2. Alright, let's look at this one. So if I had 8x cubed plus 4y plus 2 was my highest exponent, well, at x cubed, y to the, that would be first power, and then I have 2, and that's, there's no variable there. So the highest one I see is my 3. So this would be to the degree of, see if this works, degree of 3. Okay, good. Now let's go, let's define these specifically. Okay, let's start with degree. Okay, we're going to have a little chart. Now, when we go ahead and classify polynomials, always refer to the chart, and then soon it'll just become memorization. So, if we're talking about the degree, so the exponent, if we had, actually the smallest degree we could have is 0, right? If there's not an exponent, it's raised to the 0 power. And then we have 1, then we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. Excuse me. Good. So if we have something that's raised to the 0 power, that's actually called a constant. Okay? And an example would be just any number. So if I had the number 8, right? It doesn't have a variable. It's not raised to a specific exponent. The exponent is actually 0 since there's no variable there. Okay, good. My next one we're going to be talking about is the degree of 1, and that is going to be called linear. Okay, now an example would be things that we've seen before is just like 2x plus 1, right? If I had y equals 2x plus 1, if I graph that, that would look linear because the exponent is actually 1, right? Good. Let's go to the next one. So if I had a degree of 2, that's actually called, you might have heard it before, but it's called quadratic. Quadratic. Okay, good. Now an example would be, let's say, if I had 4x squared. 4x squared, right? So I had 4x, and that's raised to the 2nd power. Good. So now if I had a degree of 3, that would actually be called a cubic. Okay, cubic. Now example would be anything really raised to the what power do you think? 3. Good. So if I had like 7y cubed, right? That would be an example. Now you could add terms after here, but as long as 2 is the highest exponent or 3 is the highest exponent, that is what it's categorized as. So good, let's go to 4. If I had 4, that is going to be called quartic. Okay, quartic. So an example would be, let's say, if I just had, z to the 4th power, right? I only have one term here. This one I have 2 terms here. That one I have 1 term there. It doesn't really matter as long as 4 is the highest exponent of that expression. And 5, it's going to be, oh, let me go, stay consistent, and I want to go quintic. Quintic. Okay? Good. An example would be anything really raised to the 5th power. Okay, good. Notice I don't have anything after 5. Well, anything after 5 is basically just whatever that power is. So if I had, example, let's say, 6y to the 6th, what's my power? My power is actually 6 up here, so that would just be to the 6th power, and so on and so forth. So if I had to raise to the 7th, it would be to the 7th power, or to the 8th power, and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are examples of that. Now the number of terms is a little bit easier. Okay, obviously I could have 1 term, I could have 2 terms, I could have 3 terms, or I could have 4 or more terms. Okay, if I have 1 term, okay, if I have 1 term, it's going to be called a monomial. Okay, mono means 1, right? Monomial. Good. So all of these are going to have nomial in it because that means terms. So what word or root word means 2? Let's see. So it would be binomial. Okay, binomial. Think bicycle, two wheels. Two terms, binomial. Good. Oop. Now, three terms. Think of a tricycle, trinomial. Okay, trinomial. Okay, good. And lastly, four or more, we are going to be calling all of them polynomials, just like I said before. All that means is many terms. Okay, good. So let's go back, and I'm going to go through the first example. So let's go through. Now I already have these. I said that we have two terms is to the degree of 2. Well, I know that. Let me erase this. Now, I'm always gonna go by the degree first. So the degree here we said is 2. So if we go to our chart, the degree of 2 is what? Quadratic. So if I go back, the degree of 2, it's quadratic. So all that says quadratic. Good. How many terms do I have? If you remember back, I have 1, and then I have 2. So if I have 2 terms, that's going to be called 2 terms binomial. Binomial. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so I will go back. Let me get my pen. So this would be a quadratic binomial. Okay. I'm going to start the second one with you. Then you could finish the next 3. Okay. Let me erase here. Good. Now we already started this one. Okay. We already started this one. Now, what is the degree? The highest degree, x to the third, y to the first. And there's nothing here. So 3 or 1, 3 is higher. So this is raised to the third power. So something that's raised to the third degree is called cubic. So if I go cubic, and how many terms are we talking about? We're talking about 1, we're talking about 2, we're talking about 3. So something that has 3 terms is a trinomial. So let's go back. So this would be a cubic trinomial. Okay, good. All right, so I said I was going to start the second one, but we just kind of went through it because we already started it before. So let's try both of these, and then you could start your practice. Sorry, your midpoint check. All right. If you have any questions, ask. Thanks, and see you next time.